Samuel kicked the snow off the tires of the yellow bus, checking the pressure. His breath formed clouds in the freezing morning air. He had driven Route 409 for 42 years, without a single accident. A young man in a sharp wool coat walked out of the school admin building. It was Mr. Sterling, the new superintendent of the district. "Samuel, why is the bus still idling?" "Fuel costs are up." Samuel patted the hood of the bus like it was a loyal horse. "She needs to warm up, Mr. Sterling. The engine block is cold." Sterling checked his watch, annoyed. "It's a machine, not a pet. We are modernizing the fleet and the staff. This is your last week, Samuel. You found a younger driver. He's faster, and he costs half your salary." Samuel froze. His hands, wrapped in wool gloves, clenched tight. "Faster isn't safer on these mountain roads, sir," Samuel whispered. "The parents trust me. I drove them when they were kids." Sterling laughed, handing Samuel a termination notice. "Sentimentality doesn't balance the budget. Pack your things." Samuel looked at the bus, then at the gray sky gathering clouds. "There's a storm coming, sir. A big one. Don't worry about the weather, old man. Worry about your retirement." Samuel walked away, leaving his heart on the driver's seat. He didn't know that in 24 hours, the town would be begging for him to return. Arrogance thinks it can outrun the storm. Wisdom knows you must respect it. Samuel walked home that afternoon, the termination letter burning a hole in his pocket. His small house sat on a hill, overlooking the winding roads of the valley, the same roads he had memorized like the lines on his own palm. For 4 decades, he had been the first face the children saw in the morning and the last one they saw in the afternoon. He knew which kid was being bullied and needed a seat near the front. He knew which kid didn't have enough food at home and accidentally left an extra apple on their seat. He wasn't just a driver. He was a guardian. But to Mr. Sterling, he was just a line item on a budget spreadsheet, an expensive relic that needed to be replaced by someone younger, faster, and cheaper. He sat in his recliner, staring out the window as the sky turned a bruised shade of purple. The weatherman on the television was warning of a historic blizzard, a storm system that was moving faster than predicted. Samuel felt it in his knees, that deep, aching throb that always warned him of heavy snow. He looked at the clock. 3 p.m. The school buses would be lining up soon for the afternoon run. It was the annual winter field trip day. The buses would be taking the children up to the mountain resort for a ski trip, returning late in the evening. Samuel had driven that trip 20 times. He knew that the pass near Devil's Drop iced over before the rest of the road. He knew you had to shift into low gear and hug the inside lane, even if the honking cars behind you got angry. The next morning, the snow started. It wasn't a gentle dusting. It was a white curtain that descended upon the world. Samuel stood on his porch, drinking coffee, watching the yellow buses crawl out of the depot down in the valley. He saw his bus number 409, but he wasn't behind the wheel. He saw the new driver, a young man named Jason. Samuel had met him briefly. Jason was 22, confident, and glued to his GPS. He drove with one hand on the wheel. Samuel watched as Jason took the corner too fast, the back of the bus fishtailing slightly, before correcting. Samuel winced. "Easy, son," he whispered to the wind. "She's heavy. Treat her with respect." By evening, the storm had turned into a full-blown blizzard. Visibility was 0. The wind howled through the trees like a banshee. Samuel couldn't sit still. He paced his living room, checking the police scanner he kept on the sidebar. The roads were closing. Cars were sliding into ditches, and the school buses were still up on the mountain. He called the school district office. The line rang and rang. Finally, a secretary answered, sounding panicked. "We've lost contact with bus 409, she cried. "The radio signals are blocked by the storm. Mr. Sterling is freaking out." Samuel didn't ask for permission. He didn't ask for his job back. He grabbed his heavy coat, his flashlight, and his keys. He went out to his old 4x4 pickup truck, which was equipped with a heavy-duty plow and chains on the tires. He started the engine, the roar comforting him. He wasn't an employee anymore. He was a man who knew that there were 30 children trapped in a tin can on the side of a mountain, and the boy driving them had never seen snow like this. He drove up the mountain road. It was a nightmare. Cars were abandoned on the shoulder, buried under drifts. The snow was falling so fast, the wipers couldn't keep up. Samuel drove by instinct, feeling the road beneath the ice. He passed the police barricade. The officer tried to wave him down. "Road closed, Samuel." "You can't go up there." Samuel rolled down the window. "My kids are up there, deputy. You can arrest me when I bring them down." The officer, who had ridden Samuel's bus 20 years ago, stepped back and let him pass. "Godspeed, Sam," he whispered. 3 miles up, near Devil's Drop, Samuel saw the flashing lights. It was a scene of chaos. Bus 409 had slid off the road. The front wheels were dangling over the edge of the embankment, a 50-foot drop into the ravine below. The bus was teetering, rocking slightly with every gust of wind. The back emergency door was jammed against a snowbank. The children were trapped inside. Samuel pulled his truck as close as he dared, shining his high beams onto the bus. He grabbed a heavy tow chain and a crowbar and ran toward the wreck. The wind nearly knocked him over. He slipped, falling hard on his hip, but scrambled back up. He reached the driver's side window. He could see Jason inside. The young man was frozen, gripping the steering wheel with a death grip, his eyes wide with terror. He was hyperventilating. The bus rocked again. The kids were screaming. "Open the door." Samuel roared over the wind, banging on the glass. Jason looked at him, paralyzed. He couldn't move. He was in shock. Samuel realized he had no choice. He climbed up the side of the bus, finding footholds on the rubber trim. He reached the emergency release lever on the outside of the door. It was frozen shut with ice. Samuel pulled his crowbar and smashed the ice, chipping away until his knuckles bled. With a mighty heave, he yanked the lever. The doors hissed open. Samuel jumped into the bus. The atmosphere was one of sheer panic. The heater had died. It was freezing. The bus was tilted at a 30-degree angle. "Everyone stay still," Samuel commanded. His voice wasn't the voice of a gentle old man. It was the voice of a captain. "If you move, the weight shifts. If the weight shifts, we go over." The children, recognizing his voice, instantly quieted down. "Mr. Samuel," a little girl cried, "we're scared." "I know, honey, but I'm here now," Samuel said calmly. He moved slowly toward the driver's seat. The bus groaned. The metal frame creaked under the strain. Samuel put a hand on Jason's shoulder. "Son," Samuel said softly, "you need to let go of the wheel. You need to move." Jason shook his head, tears streaming down his face. "I can't. I slid. I tried to brake ... The computer said ... "Forget the computer," Samuel said. "Move." He gently pried Jason's fingers off the wheel and guided him to a seat. Samuel sat in the driver's seat. It felt like home, but it felt wrong. The bus was dead. The engine had stalled. The rear wheels were on ice. The front wheels were in the air. If he tried to reverse, the torque might spin the wheels and slide them sideways off the cliff. He needed traction. He needed weight. He looked in the rearview mirror. "Listen to me," Samuel told the kids. "I need everyone to move to the very back of the bus. Slowly. On your hands and knees. Do it now." The children obeyed. As they moved back, the center of gravity shifted. The front of the bus lifted slightly, but the rear tires dug deeper into the snow. It wasn't enough. Samuel looked out the window. His truck was parked 20 feet away. He had the chain. He needed to secure the bus to the truck to keep it from sliding while he tried to reverse. But he couldn't drive both. He looked at Jason. "Can you drive a stick shift?" Samuel asked. Jason nodded weakly. "Yes." "Take these keys." Samuel threw him the keys to his truck. "Get in my truck. Hook the chain to the rear axle of the bus. Then put the truck in reverse and pull. Do not stop pulling until I honk the horn. Do you understand?" Jason looked at the storm outside. I can't go back out there." Samuel grabbed Jason's collar. "These are children, son. You are responsible for them. Be a man. Go." Jason looked at Samuel's fierce eyes that had seen decades of winters. He nodded. He scrambled out of the bus. Samuel watched in the mirror as Jason hooked the chain. The bus groaned again. It slipped another inch. "Hurry," Samuel whispered. He felt the bus shudder as the chain went taut. Jason was pulling. Samuel put the bus in reverse. He didn't slam the gas. He feathered it. He felt the tires spinning on the ice. He waited. He waited for the friction. He closed his eyes and listened to the machine. He felt the exact moment the rubber caught a patch of gravel beneath the ice. "Now," he screamed, slamming the accelerator. The engine roared. The chain tightened. The truck pulled. The bus screamed. Slowly, agonizingly, the front wheels dragged back onto the asphalt. 1 foot, 2 feet, 5 feet. The bus slammed back onto the road, safe. Samuel slammed the brakes and engaged the emergency lock. He slumped over the wheel, his heart hammering against his ribs. He was 68 years old. His body was shaking. He heard the cheers of the children behind him. He wiped the sweat from his forehead. He opened the door and stepped out into the snow. Jason ran over from the truck, sobbing. "Thank you," Jason cried. "I didn't know what to do. The GPS said turn right." But it was a cliff. Samuel patted the young man's shoulder. "A GPS is a map, son. It's not eyes. You have to look at the road, not the screen." By the time they got the bus down the mountain, the storm had broken. A convoy of police cars and anxious parents was waiting at the bottom of the hill. Mr. Sterling was there, looking pale and terrified, surrounded by news crews. When the bus rolled into the parking lot, battered but safe, the parents broke through the police line. They didn't run to Jason. They ran to the bus door. When Samuel stepped out, exhausted and limping, a hush fell over the crowd. Then a mother started clapping. Then a father. Soon the entire town was cheering. They lifted Samuel onto their shoulders. Mr. Sterling pushed through the crowd. "What happened up there?" he demanded, trying to regain control. "Why was a terminated employee driving a district vehicle? This is a liability." A father, a large man who worked at the steel mill, stepped in front of Sterling. "Liability?" the father growled. "This man just saved 30 lives. If you fire him again, you won't have a single student in this district tomorrow." Sterling looked around. He saw the anger in the parents' eyes. He saw the shame in Jason's face. He realized he had made a mistake that no budget cut could justify. The next week, the school board held an emergency meeting. They fired Mr. Sterling for gross negligence in hiring inexperienced drivers for dangerous routes. They offered Samuel his job back with a raise and a specialized schedule. But Samuel declined. He stood at the podium, wearing his best Sunday suit. "I appreciate the offer," Samuel said, his voice steady. "But my time behind the wheel is done. My reflexes aren't what they used to be, and I won't risk the children." He pointed to Jason, who was sitting in the back row, head down. But this young man, he learned something on that mountain. He learned respect. He learned fear. And he learned how to listen to the machine. If you give him proper training, and maybe a co-pilot for a while, he'll be a good driver. The room was silent. Even in retirement, Samuel was protecting the future. Samuel spent his retirement differently after that. He didn't drive the bus. He became the district's safety trainer. Every new driver had to spend 2 weeks with Samuel, learning the roads, learning the engine, and learning that the cargo they carried was more precious than gold. And every morning he would sit on his porch with his coffee, watching the yellow buses wind through the valley. He would smile, knowing they were safe, not because of a computer, but because he had taught the drivers to feel the road. We live in a world that worships speed, youth, and technology. We try to replace experience with efficiency. We push our seniors aside, thinking they are too slow for the modern world. But when the storm comes, and the storm always comes, the apps fail, the sensors freeze. And the only thing that can save us is the steady hand of someone who has been there before. The elderly are not a burden to be managed. They are a library of survival. They have weathered storms we haven't even seen yet. If you have a senior in your life, a parent, a grandparent, or just a neighbor, listen to them, respect them. Because one day, you might be stuck on the side of a mountain, and their wisdom will be the only tow chain strong enough to pull you out. Don't wait for a blizzard to appreciate the shelter they provide.